Okay.
This room is locked. All right, don't worry. Enter now.
All right, so we are going to begin shortly. So the recording has started.
Okay.
All right. So
Now,
personally, I
Stedify.
actually do know you, but for the sake of also those who are joining us today, and we welcome you all for joining in this webinar. And today's topic is about meal planning. That is what we are here to discuss about. And the reason we have this as a foundation, it's because it's not just about knowing how to eat, but also knowing how to plan what you eat on a daily basis. And it's the daily basis that actually creates the effect of a healthy lifestyle. And so today we are here with Marian Atolagbe, and she is a naturopath doctor. And having a naturopath doctor, you'd say who a naturopath doctor is, but I'll give her some few minutes for her to a bit explain that term, naturopath doctor, to those who do not understand, because I do not want you to mistake it for a medical doctor. And so, yes, you're welcome, Miriam Atolagbe, and we are really pleased to have you here today with us. And before we proceed for today's discussion, I want you to tell us a bit about yourself, your profession as a naturopath doctor, and just a little bit of who you are so we can get more comfortable as we learn from you today.
Well, thank you very much, Brother Great. It's
Yeah.
a great pleasure to be with you at this time. I really
Yes.
praise the Lord for the opportunity that we have to share these wonderful things. So, as a naturopath, it's just as easy as the word says,
Okay.
nature,
Yeah.
natural. So,
All
this
right.
is a profession that focuses on using the things of nature to restore health, to maintain health, and to reverse unhealthy conditions. So it's more of focusing on the life of the person, how the person can get well. And because we human beings, we are three-dimensional, physical, mental, and spiritual, you can't separate any of the three. So with that, a naturopath will take care of all of those aspects of the person. Is going to look at how the person is doing spiritually, how the person is doing physically and also mentally. So it's a very, very wide field that uh, I can say it's difficult to cover it all, but
Yeah.
then it's such an interesting thing. And being a Christian, that makes it
Yeah.
even more interesting because as a Christian, I focus on the Master, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, the way he healed, and he did more healing than preaching. So I
Yeah.
see an avenue as a naturopath to be able to use the Master's method to keep us alive and to help us to remain in good spiritual condition so that we can see the Father eventually and live in the company of angels.
Wow, that was a brief but yet impactful one. And thank you for giving that clarity and, of course, giving an information of who you are. Okay, thank you. So right now, we'll just go straight into our discussion for today. For those who are joining, in case you have forgotten or are not really aware of what we are discussing today, today's webinar is about balanced meal planning. And the essence of this is for us to learn how to craft nutritious daily menus. And so today, we'll just begin shortly with the first thing in our head, because when you go through the flyer, you may be asking, what is balanced meal plan? What is a balanced meal plan? And I would like to ask you, Ma, what a balanced meal plan is.
Yes, that's the first thing we need to understand. What is a balanced meal plan? How do we plan it? And
Yeah.
planning is key to eating right, to eating well. And I like the way that you have put it, crafted it actually. It's a crafting nutritious daily menus. It's really
Yeah.
crafting. And when we begin to look at it in this beautiful way, we see how wonderful it is to prepare our meals. But before we prepare it, we've got to plan how to do it. And that planning is key. And I'm glad that in talking about food here, we are talking about planning. So that is
Yeah.
very, very important to look at. So when we talk about balanced meal, the
Mm-hmm.
most, okay, the most descriptive and easy to follow definition of balanced meal is found in the book of books, the Bible. And that is the very first chapter of the book. When the master finished creating, he then designed, he crafted. Let me continue. I love that word. He crafted the best meal for man. Very easy. If we just get this part of it, we'll see that it's very easy to plan our meals. He said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree to in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. And then when sin happened, unfortunately, the last part of Genesis 3:18, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. Well, it sounds like not too happy to know that we sinned. Well, we sinned. But then our all-loving Father made the provision to restore us. Therefore, he gave us vegetables. Those are herbs. And if we want a very wonderful definition, I found it in Inspiration. I love these books by this lady, Ellen G. White. And this book is Counsels on Diet. It's one of the books I read when I chose that I want to live the way that God made us to eat in the beginning. And this is page 376 of Counsels on Diets and Foods. It says grains, fruits, nuts, and vegetables constitute the diet chosen for us by our Creator. These foods, when they are prepared in a very simple, keep the key words in mind, simple and natural. As much as possible, we keep it simple. We have the most healthy and nourishing food. How do they nourish? They impart strength. They give us a power of endurance and a vigor of intellect.
Okay, sorry, Mara, we just lost you. You can please unmute. Yeah, sorry for that. Okay. So you can unmute yourself. Sorry for that. We can't still hear you. Just try again. You can try again. Yeah. Okay. You are still speaking. I don't know. We cannot hear you. You're on mute. You're on mute. Yeah. Just try and unmute yourself. No. Okay. I know there is a struggle here. Okay. Okay. I don't know. Can you leave and join again? Okay. Sorry for that break. We're trying to see how this can be fixed. But seems there. Can anyone here unmute themselves? Let me be sure.
Okay,
Yes,
can you hear me now?
Uh-huh. Yeah, we can
yes.
hear you. We can hear you. You
Okay,
can go on, man. Yeah.
all right. So I should proceed. So
Yeah, sure.
let's, all right. All right, Maribeth. So we see that if we reflect on these words, we know that planning is essential to our getting what we want. Before we can implement diet that is best for us, this key factor is very important. Now, those words I quoted from inspiration. And when I look at organizations like World Health Organization, they say to achieve a balanced meal, we consume a diverse selection of foods from 5 core food groups: fruits, vegetables, grains, protein, and dairy in appropriate amounts. Now, I see sense in what they have put together, but then you will see that God is all wise. From Him, they still get what they want. And when we have the original from the Word of God, and then we add inspiration from the writings that I love so much and I have found to be so true, we find that it is indeed what we can live with and that we can have balanced diet. So it demands that we plan wisely, that we take that which is conducive to health so that we can take from the land and we can prepare. Because where she wrote from, living in United States of America, we see that she said we can have all of these foods, they come from everywhere, but I know that we have a lot of them in our land. So balanced eating is a sustainable lifestyle for long-term health, promoting well-being, weight management, and disease prevention through gradual informed choices. So those words are very, very much selected. They are very important. We can't do it haphazardly. We cannot. We can't do it haphazardly. So let's move on. With increasing evidence, we can see that if we choose the diet that is given to us in the beginning, we have so many advantages, and these are the advantages I have listed here. We have better energy, it boosts energy. With global rise in increase in energy, especially for those they call the baby boomers, who don't want to even grow old. They want the best nutrients and they want to eat it right. And so this field of study is gaining a lot of ground because it's selling. I'm not here to sell products, but it's selling. And whatever the world sees that is selling, they go into it. They want to see it. Plus, research upon research is showing us that this is the diet that strengthens immunity. This is the diet that manages weight. I have been in several training programs, and I cannot forget one where I saw this man, 600 pounds. Now, if you know me, I am about 156, 57 pounds. And I think if I would just want to use somebody that you know to guess weight. I can look at Maribeth with her height. She cannot be up to 160. If she's 160, she can't be more than that. Because of her height, she might weigh more than me. Now, imagine Maribeth is about 160, and this man was 600 pounds. And through proper nutrition, planned nutrition, within 3 weeks that we worked with this man, he could put a ruler, 12-inch long ruler, between her pants, her trouser, and her belly. That was how much he has lost weight. What was he eating? We'll talk about it as we go on. But it is possible to manage our weight through proper nutrition. it is possible that we can do quite a number of things, be in good health, prevent type 2 diabetes, but let's look at it very well. Let's just keep going. Let's look at it. Let's be real now. Let's be very, very real. Is it possible to just do it? No, it's a little bit complex, but it's simple if we make it simple. There are many reasons why it's difficult for us to do it. For instance, time. I don't know who is not short of time. If my grandchildren tell me they don't have time, I'm like, when did you come into the world? What are you doing with your time? They say, Grandma, I don't have time. Okay, we all don't have time. So when we're talking about meal planning, we must take this into consideration because we do not have the time. So it's a major constraint and it's a significant impediment in our path. Work, family, responsibilities, they are sufficient to take our time. So we must not forget that we don't have time. So we'll say what we can do to help with time. It's overwhelming. As a naturopath physician, I do meet people that come to me and ask for counsel on what to do or even for treatment. And I tell them, let's do this, give them a protocol. And then they start telling me, but I read this on the internet. I'm like, okay, leave internet alone for now. But it can be overwhelming. There's so much on the internet. It's difficult to not to say, I want to take a look. This digital age that we are is really, really very involving. But we have to note that it's possible to still work with the internet and know what we can take from there and what we can leave alone. The other third point is that we need to navigate through diverse dietary needs. Imagine you are in a home, you have finicky appetite individuals, you have those who don't like your diet. Maybe you are the wife, the one in charge of the kitchen, and you have individuals who, I want to be a vegan, I don't want to be vegetarian. And some people have specific medical requirements. Oh, this is diabetic individual. How do I work with that person? And so forth. So let's move on. All right. We can also see other things like, what do we have there? Psychological and motivational barriers to consistent planning. So beyond practical information, you can get practical information. You can have then challenges also. People still encounter significant psychological motivational barriers that hinder their ability to consistently create and adhere to balanced meal plans. Friends, I have been in this work, let me say, for the past 40 years plus. And I have met many individuals. For me, this is sad that they get the information, they can do it, but they don't do it. I have visited homes of people who are not supposed to eat fried foods, and I'm entering and I'm smelling frying going on. I've seen people just eating their white bread when they are supposed to be on a high fiber diet. It is difficult. There are barriers. So we cannot just overlook it. Then how about the economic situation? I remember going for a program in Lagos. It was a health program. Whenever I'm in a program, is usually to go and give health talks. And in this home, I brought my food, my little camp gas, and I was cooking food and everything in her kitchen, my hostess. And then one day, the wife came in, the husband too, and I saw in the kitchen many, should I call it exotic vegetables, carrots, cucumbers, all kinds, cabbage, and so forth. Well, I didn't say a word. As I've been trained, don't comment on what other people are eating or even what they are buying in the store. If they don't ask you questions, keep quiet. So later on, the lady then said, how do you afford this type of diet? See, the economic reality. How do you afford this type of diet? And I said, well, it is very affordable. In fact, it's cheaper than animal product foods. She said, no, I can't believe it. I just left all the chicken and so on. I went to buy all these things. I said, well, you still need some education before you start. Don't just jump into it. There is the need to get some information. Information is very important. So how do we bridge the gap between nutritional guidelines and practical application? This is the key thing. We have information and we have availability of what we can buy and do. How do we do it so that we are really doing it and not just being involved and talking about it? I've met individuals who simply talk about it. Recently, I met a friend who said, should I tell this my coworker about you? And I said, sure, why not? And then she came back and said, I asked her, and she knows too much already, but she's very sick. So all that she knows is not helping her a lot, because she said she knows this. She said, even before you do something in the office, she's the one that will criticize you and all the well, how do you bridge the gap? How do you put knowledge and practical doing to the test? So the seventh one, although not numbered on the slide, is to move on to that one, the influence of culture. The influence of culture, cultural factors, traditional diets. See, they are very good as long as we have the basic principle and we understand what it entails. It's very easy to choose from our cultural foods and continue to enjoy what we like to eat without having to say, some people say, oh, this diet is for Western world. No, it's not. The same God that owns the Western world is the same God that owns us here. He's our father. He's the father of everyone. So our cultural foods, in fact, the foods that are in our environment are the best for us. So culture should not separate us from choosing the better diet. And you may think that, well, maybe I am a little bit, what do you call it? Biased? No, not so. But it's a good thing that I'm biased in what is available for those of us who are listening at this time. That bias is a good one, because I'm not the one that is so much interested in Western world diets. I love my local foods, and I can eat my local foods and still eat the best diet that God gave man to eat. And once we understand that it's the diet that the Creator gave me, it makes sense to me. So how do I balance traditional foods? How do I make my meal in such a way that if my mother-in-law is still alive, she can visit me and eat, and I can offer her what I have? How will it be that my friends at work also, I can share what I have with them? They can still eat with me. How do I do it? Meal planning is the key. I'm going through the difficulty first of all, so that we know that it's not something that, yeah, we can just say, throw it off. I do a program for not TV, radio, internet radio program for Adventist World Radio. It's just for a few minutes. But in those few minutes, the host, almost all the time, I told him once, I think it was this past week, that I love the way you take very deep breaths. Because he would just breathe in and say, wow, Marianne. Because he'll find it so intriguing that, yeah, is it possible? I say, yeah, it is possible. And on and on and on, we can continue to learn, but we can't jump on this thing too quickly without planning. So this topic that we are talking about is a very, very key topic that we are looking at. So the difficulty, lack of time, we suggest you do batch cooking, simplifying recipes. What do we mean by batch cooking? It means that you cook a lot, and then if you have electricity, you freeze your food, especially if you are still working full-time, government agency, private places, because don't forget, we don't have time. There is lack of time. So we cook more at once. For instance, today, I cook the soup that I ate this afternoon and that I will eat tomorrow because we had electricity since yesterday. And I know that it will last till tomorrow. So that's a little batch cooking. But I will not batch cook when I know that my electricity supply where I live will not last for 4 or 5 days. But if I have generator, I can put some generator and keep it going. But that is the idea of batch cooking. Don't cook just the thing you will eat for today alone. But if you can, why not? Sure, do it so that it simplifies cooking and help with lack of time. Overwhelming information. Focus on evidence-based guidelines. What do we mean by evidence-based guidelines? We mean that you know where you go to, first of all, for your information. You don't visit or work with people or information that it can make sense to you. Let me give an example, though this is not food, but this is just the recent example that I talked about. I was cooking and I had my phone in my hand, and my niece came near me and said, Auntie, 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 Auntie. And I said, what's going on? What's going on? It just remained for her to grab that phone from my hand. And then she went away. I said, what was the matter? She said, you are using your phone when you are cooking. I said, so what? She said, well, it's going to blast. Well, it's not going to blast. I told her, I said, I watched an evidence-based documentary that showed me that using a cell phone in the petrol station will not blast. Using it in the kitchen will not blast. There are other factors that was responsible for the blasting. So, an example, with our food or with health, I don't go to anywhere on the internet. If a person tell me that, they say, I say, who said? I don't go with they say. If they say, tell me who the they is, let me go and check by myself so that I'm sure it is an evidence-based information. So, because the information is overwhelming, we cannot just be involved with everyone. Then there are some people with dietary restrictions. We need to find adaptable recipes. For instance, a person has diabetes. Don't rely on the say. Trust yourself to find the right evidence-based doctors or health practitioners that will tell you that, yes, this works really well. So I'll cook for that person. For instance, some people believe that a diabetic person must never taste anything that is good tasting in the mouth, like mangoes, oranges. They even tell them that if you even want to prevent diabetes, don't eat fruits again. So, then God is not, how do I say, let me not say blasphemy. But that means that God does not know what he's saying. Food that God gave man, the most important food is fruits. I don't want to digress. How about picky eaters? Excuse me. Try and make their food, ask them, what do you like? And put some things that will excite their appetite and help them to eat. Those who don't have appetite, encourage them, especially if they are part of the family. For those who are raising children, I heard from one of my teachers that he chose that only one food would his children, out of his children, all of his children, he said they can choose one food that they will not eat, but they cannot have more than 2, 3 that, I don't like this, I don't like that. No, they can't do that. So help them so that they will eat by not just allowing them to just leave everything. I have a little grandson that for some reason he doesn't like almond nuts. And so if the dad should do anything with almond, he will say, I don't want to eat it. But you know what the dad did? He told him, explain to him, no, you can't do that. It's very nutritious. You need almond. So he'll make almond milk for him. He'll put almond in his granola. And then one day, the mother bought something with almond, which has a lot of sugar in it. And I told him, You can't eat that thing, it has almond. Say, Grandma, I will eat this one because it's sweet. So it's not that he's allergic to almond, it's just that he's picky. So we need to note that and don't allow picky eaters to continue with their being picky, but to encourage them. So guidelines, give educational resources that can help them, give information that can be adequate to help people. So I want to note, I think at the end of that slide, if you move it up, it says that it is not essential to include every food group. Do you find it? It's not essential to include every food group in every single meal. It is not. So that's the slide. It's a very important statement. So we have carbohydrates, we have proteins, we have fats that we must eat. It's not compulsory that all of these must be eaten at every meal. No. A balanced diet is about a variety of nutrients over time, not necessarily in every single meal. If you try to do that, one will become so overwhelmed that you give up, because it is not possible to do that with the meals. So to get our nutrients, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, phytochemicals in our food, yes, they are all there ready to help us to build our ideal meal plan. So before we go to that ideal meal plan, I'm watching time very closely. Let's look at this important thing, the core nutritional components. I did say we don't need to include everything at every meal. Now let's look at it so that we know what they are and keep them in mind. So the building blocks, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. We must eat all of these things. Some people say, oh, no carb, no carbohydrate, don't touch it. It's a lie. And it will kill. It's very, very unnatural in nature to eat only carbohydrates, except to take your spoon and start eating sugar. I mean, refined white sugar. That's the way you can get 100% carbohydrates. Or I want all protein. It's not possible. It's not present in nature to have all protein. Where will you find it? Only chicken? Well, it still has carb in it. Or what? It's all in it. So carbohydrates will give us energy. That's our energy source. Proteins, building and repairs. Fats, energy storage. Hormone production and cell function. So if we don't take carbohydrate, how do we fuel our body? So you see individuals who refuse to take carb, they are weak, they are tired, and they don't know what's going on. They will think that it is something else, that they are sick, and so they continue with their special diet and don't know that it is lack of taking enough carbohydrates. Well, why did carbohydrate get a bad name? It is because of overprocessing. When we overprocess carbohydrates, and we can do this in our kitchen too. It's not only refined carbohydrate that we buy from the store. We can do this very well in our kitchen. For instance, you can take your guinea corn, your corn, grind it, filter it. That's when trouble starts. Once you filter and you remove the fiber, that is what happens. You have done a lot of refining in your kitchen. Protein is our building and repairing, but today there's too much emphasis on protein. Do you know what they did, those who are emphasizing protein like that? They studied men who are working in the mine, mining coal, and they calculate how much food they ate and how much protein is in their food, and suggested that that is a recommendation for man to eat, to have as their protein amount in the food. But that is very, very overwhelming for the body. And research is showing us that in the post-mortem of those with cancer, they have found they have too much fats present in their system, and they have too much protein that are there in their body. So we look at micronutrients and macro. Those are the ones I have just discussed. And then micro. The micronutrients are the ones we usually forget. In the world today, they remember protein, but they don't remember vitamins and minerals. And that we must not forget. But you see, it is not difficult to get it done. Not difficult at all, because we are planning for success. When we plan for success, we will get all of this done. So let's build our meal template. Let's move. Build our meal template. Some people draw a plate and they divide the plate into maybe 3 places, half vegetables. And if it's breakfast and you want to do the same, half fruits. It is highly recommended that we don't combine fruits and vegetables in the same meal. That's another discussion. Then we must remember our complex carbohydrates and beans. They come together. So let's look at a week's delicious, healthy eating. Let's look at this meal plan so that I can give you time to ask questions. Because decades, years and years of research has shown that the plant, let me say it right, the whole food plant-based diet is the better and the ideal diet for man. And as a naturopath, what do you expect the one that will choose for your meal plan? That's the one I choose. The whole food plant-based diet. And so this timetable, that's what we usually call it, is filled with all of these delicious recipes, and they are all available in this culture that we are speaking. They are all available here. I have not chosen anything that is foreign. So I won't go through them one by one, because if I do, your mouth will just start watering and then your stomach will be ready to digest food. But we are looking at it. And I don't know the plan that Stedify has, whether you give them a copy of this so that everybody can look at it even more closely, so that you can know that, yes, we can even utilize leftovers. I have that there too. I keep it as simple as possible and as flexible as possible. And I put in the large batch 2 suggestions there. And I didn't put anything that you are going to fry. Maybe some people would not like me for that, but that's okay. And the flavor, you can add more flavor than this one. You can add the local vegetables that you have and use them. That is why, knowing the principle, which is what we are looking at here, then we can use that principle to take any food that is available in our area, in our compound. And I encourage that plant some things. Plant, even if it's inside a bucket, plant in a basket, anywhere in your corridor, even if you are still in the city, plant something there and be able to go out and harvest a little vegetable. The more I suggest it to people and they do it, the more they share with me the blessings that they receive from all of these things. So I want to have time for questions. Therefore, I said I will not go through the menu one by one, because they are just the food that we have and it's right here in front of us right now. It's to encourage you to try it. Some people can say, well, I'll try every Monday or every Tuesday. I will leave all of the foods. I'll just choose the menu for Friday, or I'll choose the menu for, and I considered for those who will want to prepare their meals ahead of time for the Sabbath, those who are Sabbath keepers, so that they can have meals that they can prepare the day before. I have met individuals at church as a Seventh-day Adventist telling me that it's not possible not to cook on Sabbath. And I say, it is possible. He said, well, how about when you have children? I said, well, I had children and I was able to prepare ahead of time. And we don't have to put all the big pots of fire and be cooking and sweating in the kitchen. Oh, yes, warm your food, as we have been advised and inspiration. But all the big pots and the pounding of yam and the cooking of everybody sweating in the kitchen, It's not the ideal for those who keep that day special. So these are the things I put in consideration in doing this. So general tips. Do I have general tip slide? Refrigerate most cooked food. Cooked foods don't last long once you have cooked them. Plan ahead. This is what we are doing now. Buy your produce in bulk. Patronize village markets. I've already mentioned it. Plan some things. We have the ability to be flexible and adaptable. I'm sorry to say, I know a family, sad for me, but it just came to my mind now because of not willing to plan, having a lifestyle disease, and seeing the wife and the husband one time, and I said, what's still going on? You are not looking good. And the husband said, she has refused to follow what we have been taught. And she said, it's difficult. I don't have time. I mean, all of these excuses. And the husband said, nobody has time like that to say you can do everything. It is because you don't plan. So I'm so happy that we have decided we will plan. And that is why we are here this evening this evening. So I really appreciate, is that the last slide or is there another one? Yes, grocery list, tips for affordability. I've already mentioned all of those ones. So this is just to say thank you for being here and let's have questions.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am, for the insight so far. I believe we all have been, I would say, blessed, because when you receive an information of value at a free level, then one can say he or she is blessed. So while we are waiting, please, I would love us to ask our questions if we have any. So please, if you do have any question, put it on the platform, the chat section, and you can ask. Or if you know it's more convenient for you to perhaps speak, you can also speak. So just notify with raising your hands here on the Google Meet.
Sorry for that. I should have put
Sure.
my...
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Okay, first I have Mary Beth, your hand is up. Am I right, Mary Beth?
I saw a question flashed in and flashed out.
No, the question is still there. I want to give Mary Beth a chance to speak first. She raised her hand.
Okay.
Yeah, but the question is still there. Okay, since she's having some network issues, we'll move to the question we have first. And that question is from Isioma. Isioma shares. He asks, once someone adopts a proper whole food, plant-based diet, how long does it typically take to start noticing improvements in their health? That's the first question. And the second question is, and how do you evaluate if a specific meal plan is the right fit for an individual?
Okay, let's take the two questions together. One,
Yeah, sure.
how long does it last before you start seeing improvement? It depends on many factors. You can start seeing improvements in a few days, depending on the problem. I shared one with you when I was speaking of a man that was 600 pounds. In fact, there was no scale in human scale to measure him. They had to take him to where they rear cattle to get his weight. And in 3 weeks, he could put a 12-inch ruler between his stomach and his trousers. That was an improvement. So it depends on what and how the person is also doing it. If you really follow with the protocol with the health caregiver, then you are likely to see an improvement very quickly, especially if there is a disease process that we are dealing with. But if it is just a change in lifestyle, you want you to include diet as part of this change, it will be gradual. It will take some time. So the second question is that we should is getting off.
Okay,
Remind me,
let me ask the question again.
please.
Okay. How do you evaluate if a specific meal plan is the right fit for an individual?
Yes, the individual is the one that will have to know whether it is the right fit if it's working for the person. If it's not working for the person, he needs to reevaluate. So, for instance, a person with diabetes, you have a protocol meal plan. You follow this meal plan, for instance, this one exactly, and you have diabetes, and you are taking your blood sugar every morning. I tell you what, you will start seeing improvement from the third day. So you will know it is the right fit for you. But because there are many errors, for instance, some people say you must not eat fruits if you are diabetic. You won't see improvement in that diabetes because the person is not eating the most important food. You cannot drink juice and say you are taking fruits. No, that's not fruit taking. You have to eat the whole fruit with the fiber. Then that will bind the excess sugar, cleanse the body, and heal the person. So the usual, they say, don't eat fruits if you have diabetes. Nobody can get healed of diabetes following that program. Rather, you get on a high fiber diet with your fruits for breakfast and with just a few nuts, not more than your fist for 24 hours. You drink enough water as you should. You do everything in the protocol. We can't discuss everything now. With that diet plan, then you know it's the right one for you. So if one is not clear, one should seek help from a professional. Now, don't go to the hospital and ask for a nutritionist in the hospital to guide you. They will follow what is in the book. They will tell you what ChatGPT will tell you. And what ChatGPT will tell you is that don't eat fruits. Don't eat anything that is sweet. And ChatGPT will also tell you that you cannot be healed by natural method. So know where you get your information from.
Well, thank you very much for the clear answers that you have given. Sorry, I mistook the name. The questions that was asked earlier was from Damilola. So those two questions. So thank you very much, ma, for that clarity. All right, we still have some other questions. We still have. Okay, now this is from Isioma himself. He asks, how do we apply this knowledge with those with diseases like diabetes? Most times they are advised to stay away from a variety of foods.
How do we apply this to those who have diabetes? You see,
Yes.
I use diabetes as an example because I know this diabetes is really an issue.
Yeah.
And I just gave an example. This diet that I have given you is perfect for everybody, including a diabetic. And I can stand by it anytime because that is what it is. There is no fried food here. There is no refined sugar in this 1 week plan. There is plenty of fiber in it. Those are the things that a diabetic or any other person should be taking. So we have a plan already set for us in this type of diet. I say one thing and I will say it again and again. God is all wise. Once we follow his plan, the disease will be reversed, except if the person is not following it all the way through. If they are listening to they say, or they are listening to the nutritionist in the hospital. I'm not saying, please don't take me wrong now. I'm not saying don't get a nutritionist to advise, but get the advice in the light of the Bible and the spirit of prophecy that God has given to open up the Bible a lot more and to give more understanding so that we are guided not by the wisdom of human beings, but by the wisdom of God. Human beings do have good wisdom, but let us take it in line with inspiration. So if God says fruits, not grains and vegetables, and a person said, no, I'm not going to take fruit, what is your justification? Oh, it is sweet. Well, God made it sweet. Don't drink juice. You go and buy 5 Alive. There's nothing alive in it. That is not fruit. That is not the fruit that God gave us. Go to the tree and pluck the fruit and eat the fruit. That is food. Did I succeed in answering the question?
Yes, I believe you did, and I'll confirm that also from Isioma. On my end, yes. If Isioma or anyone else feels that the question is not fully answered, please, we can notify. But I believe from my end, it has. So thank you very much for that, for those answers. All right, we still have, okay, the question is answered. Isioma has confirmed. All right. We still have some other questions, and we also have Marybeth's hand. I believe it's a question. Please, Marybeth, you can go on.
Thank you, Ma, for this insightful presentation. I've really learned a lot. So this is my question, really. On this, can you just give us a typical meal plan, like you personally, an example of something you can eat on a very good day, and on difficult days, days where you have some of the challenges you have mentioned, what do you eat and how do you personally navigate those challenges? If you can just give us examples of a typical day, I think that would be very insightful.
Yes, I follow the principle of a whole food, plant-based diet personally. Difficult days for me, I can give an example. I think it was 2 or 3 days ago. I ate coconut and gari because I was en route and I did not have food. And where I was passing by, they said, we don't have your type of food. I said, well, what do you have? And then one said, oh, we have coconut at home. I said, well, do you have gari at home? Say yes, but will you drink gari? I said, why not? So I took gari and coconut. That I will consider a very difficult day. But I ate it. However, the only problem was that I couldn't stay there long because I could not continue with gari and coconut for too many days. So, but when it gets to the point where it's difficult, I will still be able to find something to do, to eat, and not have to starve. So that is an extreme of a difficult day that I can give an example. I saw somebody ask, do you mean that diabetic can eat eba? Absolutely yes. Resounding yes. We don't eat eba by just putting eba in the plate and be chewing eba and swallowing it by itself, do we? No, we don't. So what do you use to eat the eba is the key thing. That is the key. That is why there is eba in that timetable that I made. Your vegetable, how do you prepare it? I have there a foriro, but you are not going to fry your oil to make your own foriro. You're going to make it and put lots of vegetables and eat it with your eba. If you're able to make some tofu with soya beans, yes, put it there and enjoy your food. I have had to help several individuals get over diabetes. And it is one of the diseases that should not kill anybody. Diabetes can be reversed in 2 or 3 weeks, except if that person has become difficult and over time is not hidden to change. That's when diabetes will keep on going. The medications that we use for diabetes is not what the body is missing, neither does it work. Go and find out, and then find out why are we taking it. Well, because some people's got to follow what they think is right. So we can eat eba, but what do we eat it with? And what time of the day do we eat it? If you make eba with oil in it, fried especially, and some other things that are not going to digest. That is why inspiration says we should eat at least 3 hours before bedtime. And once you eat 3 hours before bedtime, also matters. It's not something like oily food that will be difficult to digest. It's dry bread. It's biscuits that you made at home, I would recommend, with whole grains. Yeah, some people are allergic to wheat now. More and more and more people, even if they are not allergic, they are sensitive to wheat. Why? Because they have changed the way they are growing and planting wheat. All of this scientific gardening, if I can just use a simple word, has affected the food, especially wheat, because it's a worldwide food that is sold all over the world. So it's money that is involved with wheat. Therefore, they have changed how wheat is planted. And in the human body, some bodies are saying, no, this is not the right food for my body. And that is why many people, we are having more and more allergy to wheat or sensitivity to wheat. You eat wheat and you have plenty of problems. So, but when we begin to choose this way of life, planning our meals and beginning to do it, it's such a journey. It's not a race, it is a journey. And take it that way. It's a gradual, step by step, day by day, learning more. And for those who have chosen this life like this group Stedify, to help people understand and educate them, I give you kudos. In fact, I dock my cap. Because this is what people need: information, knowledge as to what they can do. Many people, they want to change, but they don't know what to do. And they wish they could find somebody to teach them. And when we have things like this going on, oh, we will save a lot of persons who are in the dark. Because when we bring the truth to them as to what they say, we refuse to follow they say, we have evidence-based information that we are sharing, would find out that we're able to save a lot of persons.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And as you are speaking, there was one thing that stuck to my head, which is it's not following them say, but for us to actually have evidences of whatever we are practicing. Thank you for the answers so far. We still have more questions. So can please bear patiently with us as we keep asking. All right, let me call someone online. That's okay, Irene. Irene, she raised her hand. Please, if you are there, you can speak.
Hi, everyone. Good evening.
Yeah,
I'm
good
actually
evening.
glad to be here. So, my question, I wanted to ask if this program was being recorded, but I saw the recording icon there. I think it's being recorded. So, what I want to ask is that can we have access to the recording, because I invited some friends and they couldn't make it. So, though I didn't tell them anything, but I was thinking if we can have a recorded version, if we can share it with them. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine. So at the end of the session, by God's grace, hopefully tomorrow we'll share the recording with you all, or later today, we'll share the recording with you all. So that's fine. All right. I saw another
Thank you.
hand. You're welcome. You're welcome. I saw another hand earlier. If that hand has been dropped, that is Will Smart, if I'm correct. Okay, the hand has been dropped. All right. We still have other questions here. Someone asked, and I think it has been, you've answered it a bit, but I'll read the question again. And if there is anything else you want to put in there, this is by Victor. Victor asked, what flour or combination of flours do you suggest for bread, considering that only white flour is not advisable?
Yes, whole wheat is still there. White flour is also from whole wheat. It's just that they have removed all the fiber. There are others in the age of Jumai, and I don't know how to call that word ever, where you can order things. You can have barley. There are other grains. Sometimes I use oats. That's another one. The only problem with all the other flours is that they don't have gluten and it's difficult for them to rise. So when you use other grains, you can use guinea corn, you can use millets, you can use the guinea corns, all the colors that we have, but you will still need to use some wheat with it to give you the gluten. Or you have a flat bread. That is just the other option. So you can have a flat bread. I have heard of several individuals who they have on YouTube that they give so many things that they can use to raise bread, and when they don't have wheat. So we can pursue this and look at it. The only problem is that if you are not in the big cities, you may not be able to get those things. They are not easily available for us. When I stopped taking wheat and I love to eat bread, I will make it with oats. And after some time, I just decided that the trouble is a little bit too much for me, and I began to just make it flat. So I usually would take flat crackers made with wheat and use that one instead of bread. So these are options that we can pursue.
All right, thank you for the clarity. Thank you for the answer. In connection with that, someone just asked also that if one is trying to stay away from gluten, what's the best replacement?
If one wants to stay away from gluten,
Yes, what's the best replacement?
there is no direct replacement that I know of.
Okay.
But usually what one would do is to take foods that do not have gluten. For instance, even oats still have some amount of gluten. So the ones that definitely have insignificant amounts of gluten grains are grains like millets, especially millets. That is the number one that we usually will recommend for people that are needing to go gluten-free or they are allergic to gluten. So millet is a good one. But there are varieties of millet. There is the dark one, there is the whitish one, and those who are able to get crops from the northern parts of Nigeria, they can get varieties of this type of grains. And once we are using yeast, we need gluten in there. Because if there is no gluten in there, the tendency is that we put a lot of yeast. I've seen people do that. They just put a lot of yeast in an attempt to raise the flour that does not have gluten. It's the gluten that will help to make the bread fluffy and light. Without the gluten, it will be very yeast. I mean, it will be very heavy. So we can make the option of doing things like scones that don't need yeast, but they can take the place of bread, and we can choose grains that do not have gluten in it. These are the options that we can pursue.
All right, that is very well said. Thank you. And okay, I still see the person's hand up who has the question. I want to confirm if you still have another question. That is Glory. Glory, please, you can speak.
Okay, good evening, Ma. Good evening,
Good
everyone.
evening.
I'm glad to be among this gathering. Well, from what you've said, although I joined in late while you were rounding up, but I heard you talking about soya bean. Recently, where I work, I observed that most students come down, female students come down with PCOS, fibroids, and yes, PCOS, fibroid variances, and it's of a concern to me. And
Did you lose her?
from what I've observed, the food, most of the food that we're having, most of the things that contain soya bean. So I went ahead to read an article online I read like several of them that say that soya bean increase estrogen level, and estrogen level in turn causes irregularities in the hormonal imbalance, which can give rise to PCOS, that's polycystic ovarian cyst, fibroids, and ovarian cyst as all encompassing. So I'm just saying, is it still advisable to continue consuming um, soya bean, most especially if you are at risk of getting all this kind of disruption in the health? So I'm just saying, for some time I've noticed students having this, coming down with this, and this is the food that they give them. In fact, they don't feed them with meat; they feed them with soya bean cake, that's tofu. So I'm just wondering, from what I read online, the articles I read online, that this stuff can increase estrogen level. They contain phytoestrogen, which also can increase the estrogen level in the body, leading rise to fibroids, PCOS, and the rest. So I don't know if you can still take soya bean, or we should just eat our food like that without meat and fish.
Well, soya beans is not the cause of PCOS, cystic fibrosis, fibrotic ovarian issues, cysts, and so forth. As the article you have read said that it can increase estrogen level and so forth. Absolutely, why? Yes, but it's not the cause. And if something is not the cause of something, you cannot demonize that thing. You can't demonize soya beans. All of those problems you have mentioned, they are caused by hormonal imbalance. So we need to look at the cause of the problem and work with rebalancing the hormones. Soya beans, yes, it can do that. That is part of the good thing it does. It's because there is a problem that they're having problems with it. If their body does not have a problem already, it will not be a problem for them. So to say stop eating those things without treating the problem itself, the problem will not go. They will still be facing the problem. What else would they then take as the problem that they will face? So what are the things that are causing hormone imbalance? Several things. For many married women, it is the family planning that they use. And even for those who are not married, young ladies go to school with their family planning pills. Mothers buy condoms for their boys to go to school. They have all of these things. So it has been shown clear that most of those who have this problem, tell them to stop those family planning things that they put in their bodies, and the hormone will balance itself. And put them on the right diet, a cleansing diet, cleanse the body out, and you'll see how the body will rejuvenate and recover. Then you can take your soya beans. But once the problem is still on, yeah, the soya beans can add to it, but it's not the cause. And it's not the demon that is caused that will make them not to get well. So even if they stop taking soya bean products, the problem is still there. And it is a problem a lot today, to the extent that in taking up this season that I'm going in for more recordings with the Hope TV, they're asking me, speak to us on these things. It's becoming too much. I mean, do they give them soya beans for breakfast, soya beans for lunch? Every day they are eating soya beans, they are drinking soya beans. No, many of these young ladies don't drink water. They drink soft drinks. I don't know why they call it soft drinks. They drink soda. They eat Indomie. Yes, there's no meat in Indomie, but Indomie is not food. And when that is the diet that people are living on, how are they not going to have the body react and the hormone become imbalanced? It's not a problem we used to see a lot before, but more and more this is happening. You see, the menarche is happening at lesser age now, more than before. Ideally, a lady should go into menarche 17, 18 years old. Now, you are seeing 8-year-old, 9-year-old girls getting into menarche. It is the diet. So once the diet happens like that, the whole body is upside down and it becomes unbalanced.
Wow, this was an insightful one. I believe, Glory, your question is well answered because I myself have learned a lot
Hand
in
is
just
still up.
this few minutes. Yeah. So, Glory, is your question answered? Okay, perhaps she's having a network issue. That's fine. She can respond later. But I believe her question is answered. We still have more questions, and I know we have limited time. And so, by God's grace, what I would do is, as much as the questions are similar, I would ask them together so that there can be a quick response. We still have some hands up. I'll take one hand. Okay, please, your hand is up. Please, you can speak.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Thank you. I'm glad to join this study, even though I joined late. But I know someone asked a question. It was an insightful study somewhere I joined. I really learned some stuff. So I just wanted to add something. I know somebody was asking an alternative to if you're gluten sensitive or gluten allergy. So because I know that I had some issues when I had like a severe arthritis, so they felt that maybe I was allergic to gluten. So I tried to go on gluten-free stuff. So for the person asking alternative to gluten, I know oat is there. Most time I use chickpea or the garbanzo beans. You can use the chickpea flour. Almond flour is a good alternative to gluten sensitive. You can also use buckwheat. You can use tiger nuts on brown rice, coconut flour, amaranth flour, sorghum. They're all good, if you're sensitive to gluten. And it has really helped me because I know sometimes we might not know what, we might be treating something, we might not know maybe what we're sensitive to, we might not know other alternatives we can use, and thereby it could aggravate our issues. So I just wanted to mention that you can try that because that really helped me, you know, and like most time, if you can, you might not. Some people don't like wheat. They just don't like wheat. They can't take wheat. They can't tolerate it. So you can switch to other stuff too that can help. Like I said, the chickpea. You can use the chickpea to make your flour base. You can use it to make your eggs instead of tofu. Most of the time, I use the chickpea to make my egg substitute. So that's really good. So I just wanted to mention that almond flour. They're really good. But thank you all for this. Really. I hope that will help somebody.
Certainly, certainly. Thank you very much for that additional insight. Thank you very much. All right. And someone asked a question, and I know it's in connection with the hormonal imbalance which you talked about. So just to be brief on it, the question is, can consuming animal milk affect hormonal imbalance?
Absolutely.
All right.
Because
Yeah.
they give a lot of hormones to animals. And so when we drink it, we have the hormones that we don't need, and then we have more than we should have. So definitely that is well associated with hormone imbalance. For many people to correct their hormone imbalance, one of the things they have to stop doing is drinking milk. Not plant milk, but animal milk, because we have a lot of hormones in animals, more than we need. We have ours already.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Ma, for that. All right. There was a question that was asked earlier by Brother Franklin, and he said something. Frankly, he said, I hear a lot on whole wheat, that it's not just good for diabetics, but that everyone should stay away from wheat. Now, my question is, since the glycemic index of wheat is high, Would wheat bread, when used whole with its fiber, be appropriate for diabetics, especially as bread is a basic staple in our diet?
Yes, the glycemic index of wheat is very high. So bread is not the person who wants to correct diabetes friend. He should use some of these other flours that our sister just mentioned now and use those ones to make things, maybe flat bread, if you cannot raise the bread, given that they do not have gluten. So definitely, absolutely, we have enough evidence that shows that those who have diabetes should not be eating a lot of wheat, if at all. Unfortunately, some people even grind the whole wheat and use it to make fufu and say it's a special food for diabetic persons. It's just upside down. High glycemic index whole grain, you buy it from the market, you grind it, and then you make it as a special meal for those who should not be eating it. And they eat a lot of it. So they just take their medications and nothing is going on. They are dying. Diabetes is just destroying the body until they have a heart problem and die.
Wow. That was straight, and I get the answer. And I believe, frankly, your question is answered. Still have another question. I'm trying to, as much as possible, see how much question we can take. That's Nokocha Kelechi. He asks, I want to ask what local spices or seasonings can be used in meals while trying to avoid the processed spices in the market.
Yes, there are many. Thyme. Anything that is herb, that has aromatic flavor, is good herb. As long as, I'm trying to be careful now, because there are some people with strong aromatic flavors that should be used as medicine and not as seasonings. Example, clove. We should not be using clove with eating clove every day as seasoning. It's too strong. It's supposed to be medicine and maybe things like that. But from the local herbs that we have, plus the ones that are no more local, but they have become local, like rosemary. You go to the market, you'll find rosemary, you find thyme. They're not coming to my head a lot, but because I usually go outside and pluck ichang, uh, thyme, no, not thyme, basil, sweet basil, and the other one they call Indian basil. So I like the Inchan way a lot. It's I use that one quite a lot because I can go out there, pluck it, I have it whole, and I can use it very well. And if I want the one in the bottle, I usually use thyme. And some I've used thyme to cook soup before, and some people I say, why do you use thyme to cook soup? It's supposed to be only for stew. Well, there's no rules and regulations that should restrict us from using whatever seasonings, whatever herbs that we find useful to use them for whatever we want to use them. And our local herbs are good as well. In the eastern part of Nigeria, they have quite a lot. I appreciate that from that part. There are some that, personally for me, and one of the reasons is because we are being guided not to eat fermented foods. So when the seasoning or spice is a fermented product, I would say be careful, because sometimes when people are cooking the fermented seasoning, like my children told me when I used to use them, that it smells like a dead lizard. So when the fermentation has gotten to that point where the smell is so pungent and terrible like a dead animal, I would say be careful.
All right. Thank you for the answers. I believe the answer is clear. And Nokocha Kelechi, you can please confirm if your question has been carefully attended to. Okay, and while we wait for that, we also had a question that was from Chidima. The question is, what are other methods we can use in preservation of food, especially if one doesn't have fridge or freezer?
Dry your foods. Dried food is one of the best methods that we have in this part of the world because we have a lot of sun. So we can dry our food. I have attempted a lot. I remember one time I was invited for a program in Abuja, and the ministry that invited me, I don't eat their food because what I eat, they will not, and they want me coming for that program. Usually with other programs, I will just go with my own cooking things, my little camp gas and my food, and I'll cook throughout the 2 or 3 weeks of the program. But this was a 3-day program with accommodation in the hotel where I cannot cook by myself. So they told me ahead of time. And the method I used was the dry method to preserve my food. So I got to prepare ahead of time. That's why planning is very important if we are going to eat right and eat well. So for instance, I got my dates. In fact, that sister that mentioned all those things that she mentioned, they are wonderful things that we can use for such things because they are in dry form. So I got my dates, took out the stones, dried it very well. I was able to do quite a number of things to help myself. And then I just ordered for fresh fruits. And I ate very well for 3 days without refrigeration. So drying our foods is good. That would be a great method if we don't have refrigeration. Sometimes if we add salt to some food to preserve them, then when we are ready to use them, we should wash the salt off very well. That's another method of preservation, using salt. So those are 2 methods I know we can use in this place that we are, because we have a lot of sun, and we can get dehydrator if we want to get in the business of really having a lot of food to dry. I used to do that. I got a dehydrator. I'll cut my bananas and then dry it. But then since I could get fresh bananas, I did not continue to do it and didn't even know what I did with the dehydrator. So we can dehydrate. That's a wonderful method. And we can eat or cook all that we eat in a day and finish eating it.
Okay. Okay. I believe the the answer has been given. We still have more questions. I think 1 or 2. Okay, please suggest she suggests. Okay, we
Canning.
can try canning. That's what she suggests.
Yeah, that's if you can get the bottles for canning. I tried that one, but things are improving anyway. Things are getting better. More things are coming into the country. Yes, canning is a wonderful method we can use.
All right, thank you for the additional highlight. Right, I have a hand up here. That's Elijah. Please, Elijah, you can speak.
All right, thank you very much. It's a joy to be here. I'm happy. There was a question that was skipped that I think it's important to ask, and it came in the middle of the diabetes question. And it says, are you saying that diabetics cannot take EBA, something like that? And I think it would be very good to elaborate on that. So
Sorry, I didn't hear that in between that sentence. Do you mean that diabetes cannot?
Diabetics cannot take EBA. Are you saying a diabetic patient can take EBA? Sorry. She asked if
Yes,
the person
I'm
can
saying
take
yes,
EBA.
the diabetes patient can take EBA. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
It
Yes.
depends on what the diabetic patient is taking the EBA with. That was my emphasis. So if you're taking EBA as a diabetic patient or person, and you eat it with fried stew, like a foriro, typical a foriro, with all that oil, then that is where the problem is, not the EBA. Because the EBA is simply carbohydrates. It's refined carbohydrates, yes. But you can't take it unrefined, except you take the other one they call yuca, that is not the chop and die that we have, that we grow in Nigeria. But the chop and die that we grow in Nigeria, the cyanide level is very high. It needs to be broken down before we eat it. So typical EBA that we make, we have to process it, By the time we finish with eba, it's a refined food. But what do we eat it with is the key issue. So a diabetic that made a good size of vegetable, green vegetable, plenty of it, maybe put it inside with some nice seasoning, and then eat the eba with it. And remember our plates, vegetable, half plate. The others are the rest in the plate. So if a diabetic person will go and put the eba as half plate, that is trouble. And put the vegetable as quarter in the plate, that is trouble. But if the diabetes follow the way it is designed for the best of health, put the vegetable 50% of the plate, and the other things, maybe the eba, whatever, maybe a little bit of tofu also, the remaining part of the plate, the diabetic person will be okay eating that eba. I have tried it real life, and that's why I'm so sure about it. I have had, when I used to have persons come here to be treated, I had this woman came and she was overweight. She could not even come down one step when the day she came. It took some time before she could even go down the stairs. By the time she was with me for 2 weeks, we were walking 2-3 miles after lunch. But the first few days that she came, we were building up. The point I want to mention here is that first, those who are helping me felt like, no, she should not take fruit. Well, she was taking pineapple, she was taking oranges, but she doesn't take just pineapple drink. She doesn't take orange juice. No, she ate the orange whole. She ate the pineapple when we just remove the skin, plus high fiber like oats with the food like guinea corn that we cook, not that we grind it and filter it. No, we cook the guinea corn whole. So she eats the guinea corn with the fruits, sometimes 1 or 2 or 3 almond nuts for breakfast. And for lunch, a full plate of vegetable. We gave her amala, we gave her eba, and her blood sugar kept going down, kept going down. One day, I went out on an errand and I came in late. They already gave her lunch. I just met her there with the lunch, eating amala with ewedu. And I said, what is going on? Why? Where is her vegetable? I mean, the vegetable that will have fiber. Ewedu also has fiber, but the way they will give it is that it is not enough because we have to either pound it, grind it, and it's a liquid form. We don't encourage liquid food for diabetics. We want them to eat whole. So I said, stop there. Don't continue with your food. Please wash the vegetable quickly. Let's add it to this one and eat it raw. The following morning, her blood sugar went up. And those who are working with said, hey, now you see. I said, well, it was the lunch you gave her yesterday. By the time we gave her the vegetable, she already ate the amala halfway. And it was a lot of amala with the ewedu that she was enjoying. Had not had it for a few days. She was happy. She was eating it. I said, well, let's watch and see. This is an experiment for us. Tomorrow, we'll continue what we have been doing before. And we continued. The 2 days after, the blood sugar began to go down again. And continued to go down, go down, go down until it normalized within 3 weeks before she left. I've had another person when I was working in US. I had this man came to church and we were having a health program at church that day. And the focus was diabetes. And he listened to the video presentations that was given because one of the wonderful persons I have met, not personally met, in talking about diabetes are these doctors in responsible physicians. What's the name? Responsible physicians. I'm not remembering the name very well, but Toby will know the name I'm talking about. Was speaking and he had it, and then he said, what? Are you sure this can help me? And I helped him break down his diet, and he overcame the diabetes. So it's possible. It's just that there are many other factors that is not enabling people to follow the protocol. If anyone follows this diabetic protocol, by the grace of God, I have seen it many, many times. Recovery within a short time. But when they can't follow it, they cannot have that recovery. They cannot talk about it. They cannot wish it. They cannot even pray for it without taking that thing and be healed of diabetes. They've got to do it with prayer, of course. So all the prayer that they pray, all the things they talk about, they can't be drinking juices and say they want to reverse diabetes. It's not possible. You can't drink juice. You've got to eat the fruit whole, and you've got to eat it with fiber. So it's a wonderful thing that this is possible, but you've got to keep to the rules so you can eat eba.
All right. That was very, very clear. Very, very clear. Okay. Someone asked a question.
Thank you very much, Ma.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
All right. Someone asked a question, and I think that's the last question. Certainly, our time is fast spent. I didn't even know we'd spend this much time, but we'd have to close. But let me just ask the question. The person asked, wild herbs or vegetables like, for example, moringa, or what other are you talking about?
You mean for diabetic patients?
Yes, yes.
Or just everybody?
I think the diabetes patient we are talking about now.
Well, they can
Diabetic.
take every other vegetable that the other people are taking. From ugu, which is very common, they can take it. It's how they prepare it that is the key. They can take water leaf. They can take green. They call that one green. They can take moringa too. The diabetic person, let me tell you one thing. This is beyond our discussion today, but this is very key for diabetes. The cause of diabetes is excess fat. That's the cause of diabetes. And eating excess processed food that are processed excessively. This is the cause of diabetes and lack of exercise. When you want three things that is the cause of diabetes, those are the three. Now, when you take all these three things away, the diabetic person will be healed. Take the person off all of those fats. How do we get fat? From animal products, fish, meat, all the rest, turkey, chicken. Get it off all the vegetable oils. Get it off all the butter, margarine. You can't take any of those things and reverse diabetes. It's not possible. You've got to take out, because there's excess fat that blocks the cells, and insulin cannot take sugar. Everything you eat must be converted to sugar and fat. So you eat your carbohydrates, you get fat you get sugar. In the blood, it must come down to sugar. But if it is too much oil in the body, the cells are blocked. Insulin, which is like a spoon, cannot deposit the sugar in the cells where they will be kept as glucose in the liver long enough until you need it, then it will be released and come out. But because there's too much oil, some are fat from their excess fat intake. Some are as slim as beautiful slim, and their cells may still be blocked with oil if they are eating too much oil. So it's not only by look of fat that is fat in the cells. One can be very slim and there's still excess fat in the cells. So we have to go and get blood sample and take the blood sample and see the level of the triglycerides in the blood to know what is going on. But unfortunately, the medical world is not doing that, despite the evidence that is there that sugar is not the cause of diabetes. So when you stop eating mango, eating your orange, eating pawpaw, to prevent diabetes, you are just going to have diabetes, unfortunately, because the person that don't eat whole fruits, what would the person likely eat? Processed fruits. I've seen it in many homes. I've seen it with many persons. They buy Chivita. They say they are taking fruits. Five Alive, no. Or Indomie. Oh, that's just what I can eat very quickly. And I have nieces and nephews, and I see them and I say, why are you eating this? They say, Auntie, this is just the fastest thing you can get to eat so that you can go. So these are the causes of diabetes. Once those ones are taken care of, and the person is eating regular plants, whole plant-based diet, diabetes will go. The body will heal itself. And it's just as simple as that. But some people, they do not want to change. And it's not easy to change. I know that for sure. None of us want to change. But when it seems like this thing is going to help me, try it and see. It won't harm you. I mean, you go listen to the Physicians for Responsible Medicine, look at their website, I know their YouTube presentations, questions, look at the those who are talking about causes and reversal of heart disease. And some of these people don't even talk about Christianity. They don't talk about anything like that. But it's working because people are following guidelines that is divine, though they may not know God.
All right. All right. Thank you very much, Ma, for those insights. So right now, for the sake of time, we won't be able to accommodate more questions. But please, if you do have questions, you can still ask. And I know it's not convenient for us to ask questions via mail, but I plead that we try as much as possible to put our questions via email, and we'll get the question across to our speaker for today, and she would give us the answers to the question. And before we end, I know Franklin wanted to add something. So Franklin, please, in 30 seconds, just share.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, good
Yes.
evening. We can hear you.
Okay. I just wanted to add on the question about the help for the diabetics. Yes, I actually raised that point, and what I meant to add, just as the facilitator has said already, vegetables are good for diabetics. Now, fortifying the EBA is like getting your powdered moringa, or if you have something that can actually add an edge to the fiber, you can just integrate it together with the EBA. Like what I've tried, this is very nice, is taking maybe like half a teaspoon of moringa and just add it to the EBA and make the EBA together. This adds more nutrients to the body and it helps. So that's just that.
All right. Thank you for that insight. Thank you. So right now we would close, but before we close, I do not know, Ma, if you have some few words to say before we close.
Well, I will just say thank you for inviting me, and I'll encourage you to try to do these things and start somewhere. Like I mentioned, it's not a race, it's a
Yes.
journey. And once
Yeah.
we take it as a journey, we take it one step at a time. And
Sure.
don't wait until we have everything sorted out. Let's just try a little bit at a time.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you. So as you said that, I'll give us some bits of info so that we are updated. So we had our first webinar for this month. So by God's grace, we will be having our next webinar, which will be next month. So just stay tuned through the channels we have on WhatsApp. You can join the WhatsApp channel, which has been shared on the chat section. So if you join, whatever update we have for the next webinar, you would actually be notified. And then on our website, going through our website, you would have some information there too. I know some persons were already asking about recipes, sort of. While we would get the timetable, the food menu across to you, and especially through the WhatsApp channel, we'd also want to make you aware that we actually do have our website where we have our recipes that you can actually try out. Healthy recipes, as some of the ones she has actually mentioned, you can find them there. So all you need to do is go to stedify.com, and there you'll find out the plant-based recipes. And we are not just only sharing recipes, but we are sharing knowledge. And as we have spoken today on balanced meal, we also share more insight. And that's why we have a podcast. And so in our podcast, we talk a lot about the medical and even helping you in simple terms, helping you to take charge of your health. So all these Stedify is bringing to you with a simple mission to help you, to empower you to live a better life by making the right health choices. And we hope that by God's grace, our little effort would actually help you to move towards the right direction when it comes to a healthy lifestyle. And so, with this, I would really want to say thank you once again, everyone, for joining in. And I see many of us, it's over an hour, and we are still here. And that tells us that we listening, and the speaker also, we are all dedicated to ensuring that we empower ourselves with the right information. So thank you all very much once again, and we shall meet. I hope so. We shall meet next month for our next webinar. So take care, everyone, and good night. God bless.
Good night.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Bye.
Good night. Thank you.